Hey, Stephanie. What's up? What's going on? Ooh, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? What's up, y'all? Y'all know the question I'm about to ask y'all. Have y'all looked for the evidence today? Have you guys looked for the evidence on today? Say that again. Have you all looked for the evidence on today? You may say, Apostle, what evidence? The evidence that God is moving on your behalf. The evidence that your situation, your circumstance is turning around. Have you looked for the evidence on today? Hey, Andrea. Have you looked? Hey, Visha. Have you looked for the evidence? Have you looked for the evidence? You need to tithe, Andrea. Tithe. I'm going to say that again. Have you looked for the evidence? Can I get someone to type that in on the screen? Right? We know that as we're approaching the end of 2021, that God is really dealing with us about looking for evidence every single day that things are getting better, that the tides are turning, that the storm is like ending. And he's telling us to look for the evidence because he wants to increase our faith. He wants us to see that things are really changing. And not only that, he wants to change our perspective of what we feel 2021 has been for us. But today, he wants me to talk about this. What do you do when, the evidence that you find triggers you? I'm going to say that again. What do you do when, like, the evidence that you find, not only is it unexpected evidence, but it triggers you because you don't understand what it is that you're seeing. You don't understand the evidence. People don't talk about that. How sometimes you can see things happening and it's like you don't understand it and it'll make you anxious until you get in the secret place, right? To see what God has to say about it. What do you do when it triggers you into being fearful? We talk and talk and talk about wanting God to move in certain things, but how many people know that sometimes when God begins to move in certain situations, how many people know that sometimes it's so unexpected that it scares you? It freaks you out, right? I had a moment today where, it's been a good day. It's been a busy day. It's been a highly productive day. It's been a peace-filled day for me. But I had a moment today where, things are going good and then boom, something triggered me. Something happened. And it was just like, it made me so anxious because I did not understand it. I didn't understand, God, what does this mean? What is it? And so I drove to the reservoir and the Lord began to tell me evidence. Because sometimes we'll see things happening and we don't even realize that it's evidence that God is moving in a situation or a circumstance. But today was one of those days where, I had forgotten about this particular situation. I had honestly been working to just let it go and just move on. And something happened and I got absolutely triggered. But as I was sitting here at the reservoir, the Lord says, when the evidence trips you up, and, sometimes evidence does trip us up because, like I said, it's unexpected, right? It's not something to say oh no to. But he said, when you get to a point where something unexpected happens like that, what you've got to do is take a deep breath and trust me anyway. I'm going to say that again. He says, in moments like that, yeah, we know that sometimes the enemy blindsides us, but sometimes the evidence that God is moving That blindsides us even more. If you don't think that this is a real thing, ask the children of Israel. The evidence of the promised land scared them. It made them so fearful. And in so many words, they were anxious. I don't think we even realized that what the children of Israel were dealing with when the spies came back giving their report, it was anxiety, fear of what could happen. Right? Everything that they said was, no, we can't beat them. They like Josh, they were anxious about the evidence of the promise materializing, not knowing that God had a way, he had a plan. I'm going to say that again. And so what we see Joshua and Caleb doing, we see them saying, you know what? This was unexpected. The evidence of the promised land, it was very unexpected. But we are going to trust God anyway. And it's like when they trusted God, you want to know what happened? God gave them a strategy. And what we see in the Bible is that shortly after, right, they decided to trust God anyway. Trust God through the anxiety. Trust God through the fear that they felt. It's like in that moment, what we see happening is God bringing it to pass for them and handling every single thing that they were concerned about, every single thing that was making them anxious. And a large part of that, it was the enemies, the people that were living in the promised land at that time. But what we see God do is respond to their obedience. And the very thing that they were anxious and fearful about was the very thing that God himself, he intervened on. He confused the enemy so that they could overtake the promised land. Am I making sense? So again, the question becomes, Apostle, what do I do when the evidence makes me feel anxious? When the evidence makes me feel fearful of what could happen and what will happen when I don't understand the evidence? Your answer is to trust God anyway. And here's the thing. I know some of y'all are going to be watching this and you're going to be like, I don't know if this applies to me. But for many people, you have to understand that if you're connected to this ministry, God a lot of times puts me through things first. Sometimes he puts me through it at the same time you guys are going through it. But he puts me through it before you ever go through it so that I can give you the blueprint out of it. What am I saying? For some of y'all, it explains what you've been feeling recently about what God has been showing you evidence-wise. And for some of y'all, it's just simply a forewarning. But the Lord is saying, no matter what, when you come upon the evidence, decide right then and there to take a deep breath and to trust God anyway. I need somebody to type that in. Trust God anyway. When the evidence don't make sense, trust God anyway. When the evidence makes me feel fearful, trust God anyway. When the evidence makes me feel like I cannot get the promise, trust God anyway. Trust him anyway. I mean, it had me so anxious. I'm like, Lord, I don't even want to eat. I don't want to do anything because I'm on edge now. I don't get it. I don't want to go through this. In so many words, that was the children of Israel. God showed them the promise and they like, we don't want to do that. We good. We don't want to do that. No, it's too much. We don't want to do it. This was me today. God, too much, too much, too much. But when I heard him put it to me like that, peace came. Joy came. Yeah, it's all fine and dandy when you struggling, when you going through the storm, to tell God exactly what you want, to stand for it. But I'm going to be real. If the promise does not scare you, you got to ask yourself, is it really God? If it don't at least make you feel some type of dis-ease, you have to ask God, Lord, is this you? Don't believe me. When I moved out of my mom's house into the apartment, There was a little bit of fear like, God, can I do this? This seemed like too much. I was a little bit on edge the very day that I moved. Even when I moved to where I live now, even with my vehicle, it was every single time the promise materializes, there's a little bit of fear that says, can I do this? The evidence of it makes you scared. It makes you question your capabilities. But the Lord says, tell them, trust me anyway. No matter how they feel, tell them to trust me anyway. Because if I brought them to this, I'll see them through this. The Lord says, tell them, if I brought them to this evidence, to this promised land, I will see them through it. And that was essentially what we saw God do with the children of Israel. He led them there. Yeah, they got scared at the thought of having to fight some more, but he saw them through that. And so shall it be for all of us. Trust God anyway. Trust him anyway. Trust him anyway. Trust him anyway. And that is the broadcast, y'all. That's it. To those of y'all that feel led to sow, you can sow one or two ways. You can sow via paypal.me/thoughtsbyt, or you can sow via $thoughtsbyt Cash App. The seed title is Trust God Anyway. The seed title is Trust God Anyway. Sow what you feel led. If you know that you need to tithe, go ahead and tithe. Pay your 10% tithe. And that's the broadcast. That's it. That's it. Andrea, the Lord wants me to tell you again, tithe. Tithe. If you got $1,000, that just simply means you sow 100. If you got $500, that means your tithe is 50, 10%. But that's it, y'all. I love y'all. I'm rooting for y'all. So until next time, y'all.